I
Hit the record button. I dare you.
it's
Oh, we're
the cold intro.
good.
I don't know. Um,
Use it
so
all.
you're
Use it.
yeah, you're good with this one,
Yeah,
the
I'm
seven
ready.
signs of person's growth mind. Cool,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
awesome. What's happening, man?
Not much. I'd I'd say not much, but I am in jolly old England right
Yeah,
now,
man, that's cool.
and
Covert ops.
yes, yes, exactly. And I come into the country with my American flags ablazing, and
I would too.
it's I try to be the ugly American wherever we go. I was joking with somebody yesterday. I was like, yeah, I try. I can be the ugly American every once in a while, but I also know after living in other countries that you know you don't want to do that too often because it can not work in your favor. But
Well, right after the fourth too.
oh yeah, right after
You're
the
like,
fourth, yeah. But I mean, I don't care for politics at all. But I thought it was pretty interesting that I entered the United Kingdom, and as soon as I did, almost literally as soon as I did, their prime minister quit.
step down.
So,
Yes.
so I'm not saying that those two things aren't
Well,
mutually exclusive, but and I'm
hey,
not looking for a new job. But
you don't have the hair for it.
yeah.
That guy's
So
got some majestic locks.
oh, yes, he does. Yes, he does. So,
Well, man,
anyway, yeah,
we've
happy to
got
be.
I'm glad you're here. Cool. I like the remote thing, even though I like in person better, but I still like to see the person I'm talking to. So that's
Yeah,
cool.
yeah,
So we've got a couple of things today. We've got I don't want to call this a debrief, but maybe that's how it goes. I'll try not to unplug my microphone while we're doing this too.
okay.
7 signs that a person has a growth mindset. I love growth mindset
Yeah,
thinking. I don't know if that works for you. Can you see?
yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
cool.
yeah, awesome.
Um, it's something I talk about it all the time, and I try to cultivate it myself, and I usually fail miserably. But I tell you what really opened my mind to what a growth mindset actually was an old business partner of mine. We were standing out in front of our business. It was a gym. We were standing out in front, and we were looking, and he said, "Man, I wish a gym would move on the street." You know, and I was like, "What? That seems like I don't want somebody doing the same thing I'm doing right next door." He's like, "Nah, see, if they drive down the street, they'll be choosing between a gym. Right
Mm,
now, they drive down the street and they choose gym or no gym." I'm like,
I
"Huh,
got
that's
you.
a yeah." And I
It's
don't I
interesting
don't know about
looking at it.
the actual mechanics of business, whether it whether it really works out that way or not, but the way of thinking, I think, does. Um,
You,
I
well,
don't
I
know what
mean,
is.
think about a food court. I mean, before we get into everything
Yeah,
else,
exactly.
like it actually. Um, I remember when I was in, when I owned a couple of restaurants that I had a when I was deciding whether to renew my lease or not. I was talking with the developer of where we were, and he was saying, "Hey, listen, we're going to we are putting up more buildings so that there will be more restaurants there." And he goes, "Kind of like a food court." I was like, "Dude, like this restaurant struggles as it is." And he
Yeah,
goes, and same type of thinking
yeah,
that I was not having at the time. He's like, "Listen, the truth is just like that, if there are more choices, then you may look at it as more competition, but it becomes a destination spot." And maybe
that's
that's what
right.
he was saying. It's a
That's right.
destination for people to make a decision, but
Hmm.
they're coming there, and so then it's up to you to make your restaurant or your gym the best it can be so that you
Right.
have people choosing you instead. And so, yeah, you're right. That's your growth. That's the start of a growth
I know,
mindset that
and you think
yeah.
about the sales aspect of it. Think about how hard it is to walk out of that food court without buying some food.
Yeah.
I mean, you're in the mall and you go in the one, you're like,
Mm.
I'm getting something.
And you notice mall food courts are usually like you can come in from multiple areas, but it's only on one side, and
Oh
then the
wow.
only thing to do is go out.
Right.
So it's not like you come into the center and then you go out to 5 different ways. It's, all points lead to this, and then it's
One,
like
yep.
a cul-de-sac. Um, I mean, like the second when you anyway, that's not what we're talking about, but there
But
are
kind of.
it's I did not have a growth mindset at that
Yeah.
point when it came to,
Yeah.
that particular situation. I just looked at it as like, oh, you're
Right.
making it harder for me again.
Yep.
But growth mindset says,
Hmm.
maybe, you're making it better for me, and I need to figure out how I can make it better in what
Right.
you're doing.
Right.
So,
It also takes a little courage.
yeah, I mean,
So
yeah.
this was a cool post on Instagram from was this Success Theory. It's yeah, My Success Theory. Anyway, they've got some good stuff.
Yep.
Let's get into it. They have active minds. They are inquisitive about life and like learning new things. They'll likely ask you 1,000 questions. And if you don't know the answer, they'll conduct some research until they do. People with active minds are entertaining to be around, and their constant inquiries and musings might tire you out.
Yeah.
What's
Um,
your have you encountered a person like that? Not in an annoying sense, like a 3-year-old.
yeah.
How
Well,
much does a blue whale skeleton weigh? I mean, we're not talking about that.
yeah. Well, Gene, first of all, I had to, when you sent this, I had to look through it to make sure that, like, do I still have a growth mindset? And I think there's one that, I probably struggle with more than any of these, but later on.
Yeah.
But my kids went through, not saying that my kids are special, but my kids went through a gifted and talented program in elementary school, and I do remember that something that they did through that was they sent
Mm.
out something to the parents that talked about growth mindset, and they continued every year to continue to send out something about growth mindset. Um,
Right, right, right.
and so and they went through, like, here, again, some of these kind of tenets of growth mindset, and active minds is one of them. And as somebody with ADD,
Mm.
with somebody like I have it, and what it means for me is that, and it's calmed down a lot over the past couple of years, but like, where a normal person, I don't remember what it is, but if a normal person has like 5,000 thoughts a day, like I have 10,000. It's
Mhm.
double whatever it is, and people with ADD have double the amount of thoughts of somebody without ADD, which is, it, it can be crippling if you don't understand it, but it means that your mind is active all the
Yeah,
time, and is
right.
continually asking questions like a 3 to 4-year-old will. And so, yeah, yeah, I encountered that with each one of my kids,
Mm.
with like any 4-year-old. Oh, this is something that, on the trip over here, I was watching the documentary on Mr. Rogers.
Oh,
It's phenomenal, by the
yeah,
way. I
it's very
like,
good.
yeah, and just, him talking to the kids and the questions that they would ask, and first of all, how he
Yeah.
feels, but then, really looking at this, the active minds, and the questions that he would say that kids would ask, like, yeah, it's looking at things as a, what is it, a uh in with beginner's mind, I guess.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And then continually, yeah,
Right.
it can be freaking tiring, the people that ask you those questions, whether they're your kids or whether it's your boss, or
Right.
or whether it's you. But yeah, like, they're asking questions for a reason, usually.
I think, yeah, this one, there's 2 ways to look at it. One is, do you have an active mind? Like
Right.
you're sort of looking at, and I think you should. I think you should want to investigate things and things about yourself and things about your business and ask those questions.
Yeah.
But yeah, it also, on the flip side, like you're talking about with your kids and Mr. Rogers,
Mhm.
how you receive those questions.
Yeah.
And I think how does this how do I put it? How does this become your reality, right? Maybe you kind of have to look at your ego. Like if people are asking you questions and you're being annoyed that they're asking you questions, like if you feel that, you should probably ask yourself why you're annoyed.
Yeah.
And then what are you annoyed about? And is it, and I know, and I'm thinking from experience when I've had like an intern or, even my kids that are older now, they're asking me questions about like working out and business and stuff. And
yeah,
when I start to feel that, like, man, this is annoying, I ask, why is it annoying? Is it because I don't know the answer, or two, because they're sort of poking holes in something that I'm doing?
yeah, yeah.
And where's that coming from? So
Yeah.
I think on both sides of that coin, it's valuable, this active minds concept.
Yeah. The poking holes thing will come up in one of the other tenets.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Number 2, they learn from criticism.
Here we go.
Right? Nobody likes to be criticized. Period. But they have comma. But because you're a learner, you don't take it personally when your boss or teacher points out flaws in your work.
Yeah.
The majority of the time, criticism is offered for a valid reason. Someone is not attempting to harm you. A growth mindset implies that you are open to receiving criticism and seeing it as a positive factor in your life.
Yeah. It is, check your fucking ego. And
I know.
Because that's the difference between criticism and learning, I think, is the ego.
I think so.
And so, yeah, your boss, your teacher, points out flaws in your work. Like, I was a pompous asshole when I was younger. I'm not saying that I'm not now sometimes, but like
you
I thought
totally were.
Yeah, I
I'm
was.
just kidding. I'm kidding. I don't know.
Yeah. No, but I mean, even before you met me, but I thought that I okay, let's even put it as a teenager. Whether it was you or whether it's your kids or any other kids that you see, like teenagers think that they have it all figured out, right?
Right.
And so,
Oh yeah.
yes. So, I remember, like, I think I've got all this figured out and I know what I'm doing. And then, whether it was my parents or whether it's another friend, like when they would question, whatever it was, and be like, oh, they're fucking stupid,
Yeah.
they just don't get it, you know. Well, first of all, one, maybe they're right, or even if they're not right, like it's something that you should look at
Right.
as, like, hey, is this something that I need to actually consider? But two, like it, yeah, the growth mindset says that it doesn't matter if they're right or wrong. It's
Right.
a it's something that you should look at and not dispose of, just because of, who they are or what they've asked you.
Yeah.
That, if you check your ego, then you go, okay, oh, maybe I should look into this more and then I can learn from it. Um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's just my thought on that. And
I
go
agree.
ahead.
Well, I agree with you 100%. I would add that, and I'm not just out here saying we should judge everyone, but you should, that saying, like, you want to cultivate your friends, or you become who you surround yourself with.
Yep.
I think you have to also audit who you're listening to,
Mhm.
and I'm not saying that you should, let's categorize people into 3 sets, people I will listen to, people I will kind of listen to, and people I don't give a shit about. I'm not saying that, because you shouldn't overreact to criticism from anyone. But I will say that sometimes people do criticize you because they are trying to cause harm, or they're trying to manipulate you or whatever, and you have to be aware of that. So
That's fair.
taking this as a blanket statement, I think, meh. But you also, on top of this, to take criticism, there are people that you have to be around, right? Like your boss, family, right? Those aren't
Especially your
necessarily on,
spouse.
yeah, but they're not necessarily on the same level, right? I mean, you could easily say, like, well, I could choose not to be around my boss because I could get another job. Yeah, but like not right now, not this moment.
Yeah.
And there are just people that are friends and people that you genuinely care about what they think.
Yeah.
You do need to sort of, I think, take it all with a grain of salt in terms of ingesting that criticism, but not reacting negatively to it, because I do agree with, like, generally speaking, I don't think people are out to, cause you harm. And one of the things we used to, you work with me, we used to run a website called Unmatched Style.
Yep.
And I was literally just telling a story about this yesterday, and I got pissed off and, was talking about the story. And we did this thing, whatever, the details don't matter for the purpose of this channel, but
I was telling this story last week as well.
oh, we'll see if it's the same story. Yeah. But we were running this contest thing, and just the amount of criticism that came in from it, because we were kind of pushing the industry a little bit with expectations and things. And I think anytime you do that, anytime you are truly doing something new and different, people are going to criticize you. Yeah. But the amount of criticism that came from just absolute strangers versus the people we actually knew and cared about, it was just amazing to sit back and watch that. Yeah. And I definitely had to, sort of prioritize who to listen to and, when to turn it on and turn it off. But one thing I did that I was just thinking about based on what I was saying earlier is that there's a difference between someone who's criticizing to just criticize for their own validation or whatever, and then someone who's criticizing, and I'm using that in quotes, because they care about the thing and they want it to be better.
Yeah.
And that's the hard part.
Yeah. Well, I think too, some of those people were criticizing as well because sometimes the expectations are that they have are not met, or
right, sure,
or even like, or the rules didn't work in their favor.
Well, that's probably more the case.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I do remember some of those criticisms, and yes, we were talking about the exact same thing, and I was
cool.
I was talking about, like, the beauty of what was created, and that, and that because of the criticisms, I know you never did it again.
Yeah.
After,
Oh yeah.
a couple of years of it
became too much to bear. It was just too annoying.
Yeah.
But have you watched The Terminal List?
I think I told you to watch it.
I don't remember. You probably did.
I read it. Yeah. I read Terminal List, and now I'm actually watching it.
Okay, awesome. Yeah. So I don't know if you've been following
was there commentary about
criticism about it?
No, because I don't care. But
well,
go ahead.
I know, but I think there's a thing where people hate Chris Pratt. But I don't. Well, I want to get into that. I don't really care. But the critic score, it's like, you can look on like Rotten Tomatoes critic score. There's like 30, and it's like 30%.
Right.
And then the audience score is like 97%, and it's like over 1,000 people.
Yeah.
And I think that's just, and it's like number one on Amazon right now. It's like the I don't know, I'll probably get it wrong, but it's like the biggest number one they've ever had or whatever. And by the way, the second biggest number one was Chris Pratt last July.
Yeah.
But whatever. But if you listen to the critics, this show's a piece of trash, right? It's just not good. Everything about it's terrible. But general people love it.
Yeah.
Or people who aren't critics love it. And I think that's what I'm getting at with taking criticism. And those people, you can read their public statements and stuff. I'm sure in private they're like, screw those people, but they're pretty much like, okay, cool, we'll work to make it better, but we hope you enjoyed it at the same time. And you've got to navigate just the shit from the positive stuff. I don't know where I'm going with that, other than taking criticism is hard.
I'm taking, but you were putting people into categories of not who do you trust more, but who you would listen to, and
I think you have to.
And in that particular one, and I mean, think about it too. Like, Star Wars was hated by critics, but it was loved by fans.
Right.
And it's the same type of thing. Like, and that happens with every.
And then it was hated by fans and loved by the public.
Well, yeah, exactly. But and my only criticism so far, I think I'm in like the second one, is that I listened to.
Yeah, it's a little different. It's a different from the book.
It is different from the book.
Yeah.
And so at first I'm like, well, that's not what they did.
Right.
And she doesn't look like that in the book.
Yep.
And but I think once I got past that, I was like, okay, let me just enjoy it.
Right.
And
I had to do the same thing.
yeah. So yeah, no, but back to they learn from criticism and determining, who you take criticism strongly from. Yeah, you should take, if there are good meaning people in your life, family, friends, all the, colleagues, that that they're not trying
Yeah.
to manipulate you, then, or at least, I mean, everybody manipulates everybody, right?
Yep.
But if you know that they're not trying to manipulate you for a bad sense, then listen to them, and take the criticism and take it to heart and go, okay, you know, h- does that fit the narrative of what I'm trying to do? And then how can I, uh, wait, what?
Well, I
Yeah.
wanted to bring this up too. I don't want to stop your thought process.
Okay. So how do, uh, you know, take the criticisms from the people that you should be taking the criticisms from, take them to
Right.
heart, and then take and if you need to correct your narrative, then correct your narrative.
Yeah.
Um, because that trying to be objective about things is where you're checking your ego. Back to what we said at the very beginning of this.
100%.
Yeah.
And this is exactly where you were going with it. It's interesting that this is Chris Pratt as well.
Hmm.
Um, but and this isn't a Chris Pratt love fest because honestly, I could really give a shit. I mean, I like him, but whatever. Um, he was at the UFC fight last weekend over the 4th or whatever, and this guy Israel Adesanya, whatever,
Hmm.
he's the current like lightweight champ or whatever, but he's defended his title the past couple of fights. I mean, I'm not a professional fighter, but as a martial artist, he was boring as shit. Whatever. But anyway, Chris Pratt apparently said something like in an interview or whatever, like how it wasn't a very exciting fight or something. And so Izzy is what this guy's called, Stylebender. He tweeted at him. He's like, good morning. I'm the man. You're just some fan, right? To Chris Pratt, and Chris Pratt responded. This is Twitter, which I don't ever look there. I only see this because it was in a news article. He says, "You're right. I'm sorry, brother. It bugs me when people criticize my work, having never themselves risked anything. It makes me a hypocrite to do exactly that to you. My bad. Keep on keeping on, champ."
Yeah,
I mean, that's what we're talking about.
we are. I think there's another thing in this too that kind of comes back to the it's the very last one. We obviously get there. That kind of feeds into the criticism, but also, like I talk about taking the criticism from somebody well-meaning, but also, like, even though, I love my family and friends and colleagues, like,
Yeah.
some of them, taking, ooh, I was about to say somebody's name and I won't do it. But but sometimes, like, is one not even criticism, or maybe they're trying to give
Well,
advice, and they just don't, th not only did they not
yeah,
understand you, but they don't understand the
yeah,
things that you're trying to achieve, because you're trying
right.
to achieve something bigger than what they have tried to achieve.
It's on the
And
same level of accepting praise from your grandma, right? Grandma's gonna love whatever you do.
yeah,
She's not gonna know what the hell you're talking about, but she's gonna love
yep,
it. It's like you
yep,
can't let that go to your head and be like, "Oh, I'm awesome. My grandma likes my work." Well, of course she does. She's your grandma. It's the same as the other way. Everybody's got that one pain in the ass uncle that you see him. He's like, gained some weight, huh?
yeah,
Like, really? I haven't seen you in 8 years, and this is the first thing you say.
yeah,
Like,
exactly.
like, well, you look more drunk, so there we go. We're even. Everybody's got that uncle. You can't
Yep.
listen to that guy.
No.
He just ain't right in the head. All right.
All right, bring it.
Self-discipline slide. What's up? Self-discipline is essential for the growth mindset endowed. They understand the importance of timing and how to exercise restraint when necessary. I'll only get into that one too. They're so
Mhm,
committed to the outcome that they're willing to put in the effort required to get there, which includes self-control. Ouchie. These
mhm,
people do not need to prove themselves to others. They're completely focused on their goals.
yep,
That's a great way to look at self-discipline. I'm in the world of like exercise and martial arts so much that, you know, when I hear self-discipline, I immediately think like, you know, don't eat all the crappy foods and
Right.
come to train every day. The importance of timing and how to exercise restraint when necessary. Man, that is, damn, that's probably painful for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I've got a friend that they are always saying like, well, if you don't want to hear the truth, don't talk to me, you know? And it's
What?
like, just like telling me the way things are and you pointing out every thing that I've ever done wrong. They're not the same thing. Like you're just, one, you're kind of being a jerk for your own pleasure, and the other, it's like maybe I do need to hear some things.
Sure.
But timing, and who was the comedian? Who's the late night show? He's the Scottish accent.
Oh, Craig Kilborn.
Yeah, Craig Kilborn. He has a stand up, and he has this whole thing. It goes on for like 5 minutes. He says, "I run everything through a filter." It's like, should this be said?
Mm-hmm.
Should this be said by me? And should this be said right now by me?
Mm-hmm.
Or
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure I slaughtered it, but some version of that. Man,
Yeah.
you know, if there was a filter pre-tweet making filter on Twitter, that would be awesome.
Yeah, that would be more useful than.
I mean,
well, actually, there
or like a
is
3-hour
there
waiting period before you can actually submit something. I don't know.
When for soccer for my son, football, since I'm in England right now, there is actually if something happens in a game and you question the coach's decision, our club has a 24-hour, like they ask you to have a 24-hour, it's a 24-hour rule.
Oh wow.
If you have a question, like, like if your kid is, didn't play the entire game, which, or, got put in for 1 minute in the first half and didn't play the second half or something, like, you pay a lot of fucking money for soccer in the States, by the way.
Yeah, I feel you.
Yeah, and so, and also, I mean, I've had friends that they've traveled from South Carolina to Florida for this national tournament, and then their son, that happened to them basically.
Yeah, doesn't play.
And
probably make you upset.
yeah, I mean, like, first of all, like, we spend all this money. Second of all, like, what went through the coach's mind? But the club has a rule to where it's 24 hours before you can criticize. And not everybody follows that, I'm sure.
Sure.
But exercising restraint in the moment
Mm-hmm.
is the hardest and the best thing that you can do in some circumstances. And whether that is like, not saying a word to a coach for 24 hours, questioning, because you're going to protect your son or daughter as much
Right.
as possible. And no matter, how much you respect that coach or not. But, that also may be in an argument with your spouse. That may be in,
Well, you're never going to win those anyway.
no, well, not on our side, but that may be in taking criticism from your boss. Like,
Yeah.
when I get criticism from my boss, I have and listen, we work remotely, so it's not like I can just, say, "Hey, what blah 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 blah," right to his face. I I have I've started to just not answer right away.
Right.
And listen, maybe
Right.
that is like a minute, an hour, or a day later, depending on what the circumstances are. Um, and a couple of different things happen from that restraint in the moment, which is I'm really like this happened last week actually. I was off, and I don't think that people understood that I was off, and I was off with, my wife and best
Oh,
friend,
right.
Army, and his wife, and we're in Charleston. We're going through a pub tour and everything. And I start to get like all these Slack messages and text messages. I'm like, what the fuck? Like,
Leave me alone. Yeah.
nobody contacted me, 48
Right.
Slack messages in a row. I'm like, what is going on? I take 1 day off.
I
But
know. I know.
it's the, and this isn't throwing my boss or any colleagues under the bus. It's just more of a there was a miscommunication somewhere,
Hmm.
and which those happen, all the fucking time. But if I would have replied back after one, not eating, two, drinking the first pint, was
Right.
a 5.3 or whatever it was. I don't know what it was, but I had already drank it, and I was like, "Well,"
What?
delete, delete, delete. Um, like I deleted everything in order to and just let it go. And then, then finally there was, some people responded back with, "Oh, I didn't realize you were off." And
Yeah.
but if I would have angry texted,
Yeah.
you know, then it would have made the situation worse, no matter if I was in the
Right.
right or not. And so, you can be in the right, but you can still do the wrong thing by not exercising restraint. Again, in an argument or
Hmm.
in a tight situation, like, but physically as well. Like, do you exercise restraint when you get, heated, with, somebody that you don't even know? Like, those can escalate, and those have been escalating even more lately, as we've seen in the news. Um,
Hmm. Oh, no
the
shit.
the exercise of, choosing to have that restraint and that self-discipline at the moment, and that's the importance of timing, right? Is if you can do that, then, you know, taking that time to think about things is going to pay off.
Yeah.
And and even if, like, you ha I'm not saying that you shouldn't, you should always take, 5 seconds to respond to something, but, you know,
Well, maybe.
um,
Well, here's
what
the thing,
what
man. How many times do you catch yourself while the other person's talking? And I'm guilty, but you're thinking about what you're going to respond to
yeah,
versus listening to all of the words.
I was
You know
trying to
what
do the same right now.
I mean? I see what you're doing. But like, I mean, you listen to them and then process it
Yeah,
instead of like half listening and half processing.
yeah. It
I mean,
it's
that takes self-discipline though.
it does, and that's becoming a better listener as well,
Yeah.
and but
And that's the second part, which is that you're so committed to the outcome, you're so
yeah,
committed
exactly.
to the growth and the goal or whatever you're trying to do or do for yourself or whatever, you put in the effort in yourself, right? It's real easy to be like, sure, I'll stay up all night and build this website. That's not really, I mean, that's it's all like external work, right?
Yeah.
Um, but
No,
being willing to like change yourself to actually impose some self-discipline and like listen,
mhm,
like that's hard to do.
yeah. No, I it is hard to do, and
Especially when it's somebody talking to you about the thing that you're an expert in.
mhm,
Because you're like, hey, who's the expert here?
right.
It doesn't mean they don't have any good. And if they don't have good ideas, cool, man. I appreciate it. I'll write it down in my notebook and
Yeah. Well,
promptly not do it, but whatever.
I had a meeting right before this, and I'd just gotten done saying that, like, I have a team member that's a contractor that we're phasing him out a little bit, and he knows, and everybody on the team knows as well. But I said, I need you to stick around, for like this meeting coming up, because we're gonna be talking about a conference,
Hmm.
and he knows a lot about conferences, and I really
Okay.
value his input. And then, like, as we're talking through then the conference that we're having this coming week in London, um, that we were talking about our live tweeting and the scheduling of how we're sending out social
Right.
messages and everything. And I was like, yeah, we need to do this and this and this. And he's like, hey, maybe you should do this. I was like, well, in my mind, I'm like, yeah, but this is what I have in my brain, and this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I just got done saying that he was an expert in this, and that I value his opinion. Maybe I should. And I was like,
Yeah.
you know what, Danny,
Let's do what he says. Yeah.
yeah, that's a better idea. And
Hmm.
and let's work on that instead. Because you're right, like he knows what he's doing.
That's
So,
strong, man. That's strong.
well, but I haven't always been like that. You haven't always been like that, and
Oh, I've
it's
always been perfect, Aaron.
I know, you've told me.
But that's the last part there, right? You don't need to prove yourself to Danny.
Yeah,
Like, what's it? It doesn't matter. You like utilize him for his knowledge and experience,
yeah,
and then everybody looks good because the
exactly.
goal has been met of whatever the hell the little thing you were trying to get done is done, right?
Yeah,
That
yeah,
it's hard to stay on target like that, you know. And
yeah.
I think for and I'm going to sound like, young people. That's not necessarily what I mean, but like, I'm at a point in my life. I'm 47. I've been doing this for 25 years.
Yeah,
Not podcasting, but building websites and things where I don't need to. I don't live for every single like. I still care about quality, but it's not like every website I build defines my value or
yep,
defines my value. Like I'm cool if it's just a whatever. The goal is to have a good life, you know.
yep,
Um, but early on, I was like, this website has to be in a gallery somewhere, and it has to like be an awesome portfolio entry, and I have to level up one more level because I did this project, and that's a lot of pressure.
yeah. But listen, there are some things that deserve that much attention. Honestly,
Absolutely.
like if whether it's a website or writing or there are definitely things that deserve the amount of attention, and you do want it as perfect as possible. And
Of
yes,
course.
sometimes it does mean that, like, listen, sometimes taking the advice of somebody or listening to the advice of somebody and go, you know, I value that, but I
Right.
really need it to be this way because not only this is what is in my head, but like, because of what this is, I need it to be this way.
Hmm.
And I think that's okay to say too.
Right.
Because like, at least you're listening to the
Hmm.
criticism, or you're listening to what the other person is saying, but you are making a decision, and self-discipline is about making decisions.
Right. I
And
like that.
yeah, and I mean, to decide is to literally cut something in
Yeah.
Latin, and so it's I had to make a decision today when I woke up at 11 o'clock UK time.
Okay.
So it was exactly. I think I told you I slept for 12 hours. I was up for 36,
Yeah.
and I was, I made the decision to sleep in, but then I woke up and I'm like, I need to have a workout.
Yeah.
And I was like, maybe I'll go run for like 10 minutes and then do my workout. But I had to make a decision, like, listen, I
Right.
committed to running more. I, also committed to, working out more, and especially
Yeah.
while I'm here, because I've told you before, like,
Yeah. We had that. That was a few podcasts ago about how,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, the traveling, it's
Yep.
and I've been doing 20-hour fasts, sometimes accidentally, when I
Right.
planned on doing 16 or 18, but I made the decision to do the 18 to 20-hour fast. I made the
Yeah.
decision this morning to go, and instead of doing a 10-minute run, I ran 3 miles, and I ran over the Tower Bridge. I ran past the Tower of London, and
That's
like,
cool.
yeah, and I got a couple of pictures to send you,
That's cool.
as well, and also send the Franklin Defense people, since I did it with the shirt on. Um,
Ooh.
yeah, and like, but I made those decisions and had to be self-disciplined, and then later on today, after I finished my meetings again, I I've promised myself that I'm doing this one workout program, and I'm doing it every single day. And so making the decision is where self-discipline, I think, really comes from.
I agree, man.
And
I like
then
that.
once you make that decision, you know, if you have to go, don't go back on it, but if you have to then change the plan,
Right.
acknowledge that you made the decision
Right.
because that was the not because you went with the information that you had at the time, and then, adjust the plan accordingly, based on the circumstances, and then that goes to then I don't need to prove to anybody, anything,
Mm-hmm.
because I took the information I had, I made the decision, I was disciplined in it, and then, when I figured out that I, should have done it differently, then I adjusted the plan in order to make it better.
I dig it.
You know, then
I
I
dig
can't
it.
really be questioned. I'm focusing on the goal as much as
I
possible.
like I like the thinking about self-discipline is about making decisions.
Yeah.
I like how you frame that.
Cool.
All right. They have a positive attitude.
Fuck that.
They're upbeat and motivating. They maintain a positive attitude in the face of adversity. They see problems as opportunities and inspire those around them to think positively. I can't help but think of Jocko,
Yeah.
not because I'm wearing his shirt and drinking his drink, which
Yeah.
is ugh, but
Best.
he's
Go
got
ahead.
that whole thing where he's like good,
Mhm.
So you woke up and you're not feeling that great. Good, overcome it. Go get your workout in. Whatever.
Yeah.
Like the whole like staying positive for the sake of positivity. I know there's some stuff on the internet that's kind of like anti that. It's like you can't just be positive all the time. Like
Yeah.
that's not necessarily good, and I agree with that. I don't know that that's what this means. I think it means that you see, particularly the problems as opportunities, right? You see, like you're working a plan, you got a project, the plan, and you're sticking to the plan, and it ain't going right. It's not the end of the world. It's that, like you just said, you have to adjust the plan. But
Mhm.
in order to do that, you have to remain positive that you can still make the goal.
Yeah.
You know what? And then if you're in a team, you can't, and your team's falling apart, you have to be the one that pulls them back.
Yeah.
Um,
Whether you're the established manager or not, or
yeah,
the established leader, yeah. Somebody has to go, okay, that didn't work. Here's what,
yeah,
like, and not even here's what we have to do, but we have to then come up with something better.
hmm,
And 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 we, again, it goes back to the information that I had when we made a decision at the time based
yeah.
on that, or we made no decision as well. Um, and you
I
know,
mean,
eh go ahead.
we've all been in these meetings where we have a really shitty client, and there's like 4 or 5 of us in the room, and we're all just bitching about this client, and it's been
Yep.
like 30 minutes, and you're just wallowing in it.
Yeah.
Like, are you the person that goes, all right, everybody, I mean, that was
That's
sucky,
good.
that was fun, but
That's
now, like,
cathartic.
how are we going to either fix our issues or fix the client's issues,
Yeah.
or deal with the client the way they are and get done and get paid and get out of this thing?
Yeah.
Like, that's the person that I want to spend time around. I mean,
Agreed.
sometimes it feels really good to just bitch for an extended period of time.
It
But I,
does.
I think you have to be careful of that. I mean,
I
eating hamburgers every day tastes really good too until 8 months later.
Mhm.
I mean, you just can't do it.
Can I I think that maybe the wording on this should have
Yes,
been,
I think so.
they have an overarching positive attitude.
Yeah, I dig it.
Because we've talked about this before, like, the whole, you know, like, being pissed off about something can really motivate you,
Yeah.
and running on that high octane fuel of hate, it
Yeah.
it it gets you maybe over a hump, but it is not sustainable, and
Right. Well,
and so
I'm gonna skip to
okay,
to number 5, the last one. Tough times motivate them. I think that's kind of where you're going too.
yeah,
Um, you like good. You find motivation in what you're talking about.
yeah,
It's that David Goggins mindset. Um, of
stay
like,
emotional, yeah,
yeah, this sucks, but I'm gonna overcome this, and the story's gonna be even so much better because I overcame it, and
yeah.
that's what I want out of it.
No, and you're right. What was the one right before it? Because, do the
Positive
positive
attitude.
attitude leads to the resilience,
I
and
think so.
but only if it's overarching. It's okay to get pissed off about things. It's okay to run on high octane fuel,
Yeah.
um, and get over a hump of that tough time, um, you know,
Yeah.
but that doesn't mean that you have to go and look for tough times.
Well, right, right. Be
You
smart.
know, but, you know, like, I mean, you have tough times if you work out on the physical sense. You have tough times
Yeah.
if you are solving a challenging puzzle as well, whether that
Mhm.
is, you know, literally a puzzle or if that is, you know, a life puzzle or a work puzzle. How do I get this done? You know, those can be tough things, tough times
Mhm.
that motivate you. But, you know, I but having that level way of being positive so that you can have the resilience. Because
Mhm.
if you're not if you don't have the overarching positive attitude, then you will not be resilient.
Right.
You
You'll
will s
always dwell on the
you'll
losses.
you'll stay on the mat and never get up.
That's
I
right.
mean, you know, the whole, it's not about getting knocked down, it's about, you know, how fast
Absolutely.
how fast you
Yep.
get back up. Like, you will stay on the mat if you don't have a positive attitude, and
You
that
will.
leads to resilience.
Absolutely.
And, you know, you know, listen, depression depression for many people is, you know,
Oh, it's a real thing,
gone
man.
through it. Yeah, you know, I've gone through it,
Yep.
and even with a positive attitude sometimes.
Mhm. Oh, absolutely.
Like, I'm really positive, but I'm crying right now
Yeah.
because, you know, like, and then, but then you try to figure out ways to get through whatever it
Mhm.
is. That tough time, like, you know, I almost think a positive attitude is more of a do you want to have a positive attitude or not? Um,
Right. Right.
and do I choose to have a positive attitude in the face of this just all fucking sucks and everything's going to shit?
Yep.
And that doesn't mean I have to be happy. Positive
Right.
attitude
It's
does not
not it
mean
doesn't mean
happy.
happy. That's right.
No, no, it just means like, you know,
Positive
listen,
outcome. We will
this,
succeed. We will get this done.
yeah,
Like,
and
just
this
because
is
you just because
temporary.
you finished a project or finished a workout doesn't mean there's a damn party and that
No,
everybody's happy because we got balloons. I mean, it just means it's done.
I want balloons.
No, I do too. But I mean, that's the thing, right? But you can't move on with your life. And then how many times or how many people do you know that just quit things and then all that shit they quit is just baggage that they
Yeah,
carry for the rest of their lives. And then you begin to create like scenarios. Well, this is why I couldn't do that thing. And this is why I couldn't do that thing. And this
yeah,
person kept me from doing that thing. Then before you know it, there's like 12 things that aren't your fault, but they kind of are because you quit basically.
yeah. You quit. You didn't set up the right circumstances, or if you didn't set up the right circumstances and things happened that weren't your fault, then you
Right.
didn't do anything to adjust fire and
Exactly. Shit happens to everybody. Like,
yeah,
that's not your fault. We get it. Um, but what are you gonna do about it? I mean,
right.
the one here, they stay on track without being influenced by what others are doing or thinking. Early on in my business, I'm talking like the first 4 or 5 years. In period three of my business has been around almost 20 years now.
Yeah,
So the first 4 or 5 years, I got really stuck in looking at the competitors and what they were doing, and how they were saying things and the types of clients and how many clients and are we going up for the same client and how am I going to beat them?
mhm,
I got really sucked in and stuck into that. And it really wasn't until I got out of that and I realized it doesn't matter. Like, no, like we're not going to win the hey, I'm a better business prize. The goal is just to not go out of business, right?
at
Um,
first.
at first, and then the goal is to make a little more money, and then the goal is to have more free time than you put into the business.
Yeah,
Like, and that's where I am in my life. But like being stuck in that, and I think back to it, how miserable I was and how much it sucked. Yeah, man, a person with a growth mindset or a leader with a growth mindset that is not focused on those petty things,
yeah,
I think is a strong leader and it's a strong person on your team.
yep, agreed. And you know, I think though the like it is when you're starting a business, you do look at that, but maybe as you grow in your business, that you should more look at the competition is like, you know, what are they doing that is better than what I'm doing? What are they doing
Right.
that is not as good as what I'm doing? And then like, you know, like
Or what niche are they in so I can stay out of it so I don't waste
yeah,
my time trying to
exactly.
beat them when I could just go to this niche where there's no one in it? Like, it's the whole growth mindset thing. Or maybe it's a niche, but maybe the market's so big that, they're choosing between us instead of choosing to do it at all.
Yep.
Like, however, but
True.
it just doesn't matter. And then at the end of the day, nobody gives a shit. I mean, clients don't know the difference, like they just want something, and either you're the first one or the best one, whatever, who cares?
Yeah.
Um,
I've actually have to come up with a quote for a news outlet that today later on
yeah.
that is, they were asking about the difference between collaboration and competitiveness within business, and which is better. And the quote that I'm giving, and especially coming from an open source world that I do, is that you can do both.
Mhm.
And that in talking with one of the people that's a maintainer on one of our projects earlier this week, he was talking about, like, they have this project that they work on that they collaborate with their competitors, in order to, not for the intellectual property parts of what they do, because that may be illegal,
Yeah.
but they come to a common understanding of, like, hey, I we need to get all of this right so that we're all, like, here, instead of being down here, we're all competing with each other. We're actually up here, and when we're competing with each other, like, we're competing because we're so much better because of the
Right.
collaboration
Right.
we've had together. And if you couldn't see that in audio, I was lower than higher. But and then it's like, so you can still compete, and but now, like, those vendors that are collaborating with each other on something can now compete with other vendors that are in the same space so much better because of the work they've done. So I actually have no problem sometimes,
Sure.
going going to a competitor and actually talking to them and saying, like, hey, I'm doing this. I think that you're doing this. This isn't,
Mhm.
like, I almost think sometimes what you said too, like, if you can figure out, how you can even work with your competitors to say,
Sure.
hey, let's take these different pieces of the market and really, and not work together always, but
Yeah, we're not talking about collusion,
no, not collusion, but
but
figure out,
yeah, being
anyway, but in the specific instance you were talking about, like, I think even, once
Mhm.
you start to do the conferences, like, all of a sudden you are, like, meeting all of your competitors, whether they were local or outside, like, they were coming to your conference,
Mhm.
and and I'm sure that you had, talks with them after that, like, hey, what are you seeing? What are you seeing
Absolutely.
that will make
Absolutely.
what we're doing all better?
Yeah, and the conference thing, the more of the other conference producers that would come to mind
Yeah.
made me realize I was onto something, I was doing something right.
Mhm.
And I didn't want to treat them negatively or try to keep them in the dark or whatever. Yeah, you were there. We engaged them. We went
Yeah.
to their things, and there were people that copied us. That I
Yeah.
had other people telling me like, "You're letting them copy you?" And I'm like, "I'm letting them. Like, I can't. Like, what? I
Yeah.
mean, it's
Is
in the moment that I say, oh, they're copying me,
then you
and then
look
I
like
keep doing the same shit, and then they're doing the same shit. Then one of us is not really.
yeah.
We're not really working it hard anymore.
Yeah. No,
Um,
and the conference that I have next week, like, I found out that there was a similar type of conference. So we're in financial services, and fintech, but there's a fintech related conference that goes half of the
mm,
week here. And so I reached out to them and I was like, "Hey, this is the growth mindset,"
yeah.
which I really had to have, like, "Hey, you guys have a similar conference that's going on Monday and Tuesday. We were planning on doing a conference on Wednesday. Can we, like, work together,
Right.
um, in order to not necessarily make it like, hey, this is one big conference,
Yeah.
but can we work together to, like, cross promote and make this like a bigger." So now it's, like, it's not South by Southwest for fintech and financial services, with,
Mm,
not with a lot less stars, but it is that type of thing. Like, it becomes something bigger, because both I and then the other conference producer, looked at it and were like, in a growth mindset, you can look at something and go, how can this be even better? And so when they were able to see that, when we were able to see that as an organization, like, it just made it so that, now, I mean, we track conference numbers every day. Now I'm seeing 150% swing in our
Wow.
conference numbers from last year. So and part of it is that part of it is getting over COVID a little bit, but it's um,
Hmm.
it's the collaboration that can come out of having that growth mindset, the
Yeah.
collaboration of, or I'm sorry, the growth mindset of how can we make things better by, by having a positive attitude, by being resilient, by making those decisions and being disciplined,
Mhm.
and and also learning from criticism, you know, and of course the active minds as well to come up with the ideas.
Yeah.
Like, all of those things factor into, you know, making something that you're working on better. I
Mm.
mean, like, I hope that, you know, this podcast is better for you because, now we're both working on it.
Yeah.
And I hope that, the other things that, that I'm doing or you're doing are better because, like, you you start to put away that ego and you just go,
Mhm.
how can we make things better?
Yeah, it's additive instead of subtractive.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
yeah. Alrighty. Number 6, they are passionate learners.
Yeah, there are more. Sorry.
Oh, no, it's fine. Um, someone with this mindset enjoys learning.
Yeah.
um,
Uh,
they, they they attend seminars and take courses. Voracious readers. Reading is important to them. Enthusiasm for learning that rubs off on other people,
yeah.
right? I mean, yeah.
Th
I mean, how many people are you around that they read, they're on top of things,
Yeah,
they're working on their skill set for their craft? I mean, those are just people you want to be around,
yeah.
you know?
I think this was the one that I was starting to question myself, like, have I lost some of my love of learning that I've had for so many years? Um,
Well, I I get what you're saying. I think that there's a difference between that, like truly, I don't want to say like being burned out or
mhm,
like being done. Like I know people in the industry that the same one we work in, the internet industry or whatever, that they're pretty much done.
yeah,
They're like, this is what I do. I'm gonna do this till I retire or I quit or whatever. I don't care to learn new stuff.
yeah,
Um, if we want to be nerds about it, we saw it when JavaScript started really coming back. This is like 8 or 9 years ago, whatever. And it was like, yeah, I'm not going to learn that.
yeah,
Like I'm just going to stay right here. And I wonder what those people are doing now. um, but there's a difference between that and kind of reaching the end of something, right? Because I think we all naturally do that. We just kind of like it's the joy of learning and climbing and being this new person and doing this new thing. And then we
yeah,
kind of plateau with it where we're like, okay, I've done this long enough. I mean, clearly you're never gonna learn everything about a subject, but like I've gotten pretty good at it and I've been doing it for half a decade.
mhm,
It's kind of hard to like continue to stay enthusiastic about it.
yeah,
And I think at that point it's okay to, you know, look at something else and try something else or to try to adapt the thing you're doing in a way that involves you learning something new, you
yeah.
know?
I agree.
Um, and I think that's a way to sort of refresh yourself too. Now, my wife will criticize me and say that, bro, my wife doesn't call me bro. She'll
Mm,
say, hey, you kind of reinvent yourself every 5 years.
mhm.
And that annoys the shit out of me because I kind of want things to stay the same for a while. And I don't blame her. But that's really where it comes out for me is that I don't want to say I get bored with things because it's not necessarily that. It's just that it's like, okay, this is the status quo now.
Yeah,
I can't let it stay status quo. I've learned all this other things since then in doing that thing, and I want to apply those things to this.
yeah.
That's where the excitement for me, that's where the joy of learning, that's where my passion is in terms of doing things. Um, but I know what you're saying. Sometimes you just sit around and you think, man, am I just tired?
Yeah.
Like, am I
Yeah.
burned out? Is there anything left for me to learn? Like, where do I look? I think you have to look at different things.
Yeah. I I I've been with having, you know, employees working for me more now. I I've ha I've had to make the decisions of, what do I learn versus what do I either let them learn, or what do I, you know what am I trying to say? I've had to make the decisions on, do I have to learn something, or like, actually, sometimes what I learn now is two things. One, like, being a better manager, as
Mm,
opposed to, you know, figuring out all the tools that I need, and
right.
learning the tools I need in order to get things done. Like, I have to be more strategic, and have to be, more of a, like, I need you to focus on this. And so some of my learning is now shifted to higher level type things. And instead of
Well, it
going,
doesn't necessarily mean higher level. It
oh,
means it's different now. Your role is different.
yeah,
And it's that self-realization where you understand that your role is different.
right.
And I
Yes.
think it's that ego thing, because the ego has different flavors, right? And part of the ego is the self-preservation, right? It's like, well, this is the shit I've always done.
Yeah.
This is what I've gotten paid for the past 15 years. I should
Right.
probably keep doing that stuff,
I'm pretty good at
even though
that.
that's not what you do anymore. That's not what it's
No,
literally not what you're getting paid to do anymore.
no.
So why are you still like, that's where that, I think that pull comes from
Yeah,
internally, and it creates like anxiety, or
yeah,
this burnout feeling or whatever. And I think that can be where it comes from, where you need to understand, like, and I don't mean like cognitively, I mean like in your soul, you need to understand, like, my role is different.
my role is
Like,
different.
the places I spend time learning and improving myself isn't in the tool, like you're saying. It's
Mhm.
in the talking to the guy or the gal who's running the tool,
Yep,
and listening to them when they tell me that, hey, it should be done this way,
right.
and not
Right,
going, I've always done it like this. And they're like, sure, old guy, but this is how
yeah,
we do it now. You should probably
yeah.
listen to that.
Well, and that's why too, like, if I'm going to learn about a tool, I need, like, we have this incredible tool that was built by somebody, and actually donated to us as, into the foundation.
Mhm.
That is a marketing tool, and it helps us, like, it allows us to basically put all of our, videos, PDFs, everything that we want to highlight in one place, and not, like, just in one place, but it's like, it can be very categorized and filtered,
Mhm.
and make a lot of sense for a user to actually use. And I still need to send you a link to it. But also, like, it's pretty awesome because, once that's done, I can click on one button, and it gives me the code to pop into an email, to where,
Mm.
like, all that stuff is right there, and if I wanna send it to somebody, like, it it's there. And so it's a beautiful tool, and this was probably the one thing, like, I was resistant to use it,
Mhm.
because it meant that this is where I'm getting to. It meant that I had to learn how to use it,
Right.
and then once I got to a point to where I'm like, I have these incredible people working for me, that they are smart enough that, they can learn how to use it, and they can do all the shit in it, and then, but I did learn it enough to know, okay, here are the, and it's built on WordPress, so it was like, I had the basis of it already, but I looked at him like, I don't have to know it all. I
Mhm.
have to know just enough of it. This is the second part of learning that I do now. I have to learn just enough of it to be able to be familiar with what they're talking about, and then
Yeah.
when there's a problem that maybe I don't know the answer anymore, even
Right.
as a manager or mentor, but but bring the problem to not only me, but us as a group. And then my job now is to, help facilitate, how do we get through that problem, and fix it together? Who do we
Right.
have to talk to in order to fix it? Um, And so that's where I tell you that I was struggling, like that one particular thing I was struggling, like I need to be more strategic, but this is a new tool and
Hmm.
I need to understand it. And so there was something that I was like, fuck, am I not learning anymore? Do I even want to learn this? And like in Marcom and marketing communications, like an average, medium to large size company has an average of 70 different marketing tools that they
I
are using.
believe it.
And
Well, I
and
have like 70 just for this damn podcast
exactly,
that I don't use, but whatever.
exactly. But but like so if I have to be an expert in all 70 of them, and we honestly we use about 15 right now,
Mm.
because we use HubSpot, which for a lot of the things.
That's
So,
like 15 rolled into one.
well, it is, yeah, I say 15. HubSpot is one, but it does
Yeah.
have many different functions. And it's just, like if I try to be an expert on all those, like I had been for the past 5 years of doing this shit, then I am starting to be a bottleneck and a hindrance to our growth.
Right.
And so I have to adjust what I learn now. Um, still learn, but adjust what I learn. And so, like I mean, I took my book Positioning for Advantage with me. It's a strategic book. And have another book. Oh, you'll love this, dude. I still have this book.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tracy Alverson.
Yes. I have had this book forever, and I'm going to reread it now because we're working a little bit more on content strategy. And not that I
Awesome.
want to totally plan out all the content strategy, but I want to reread it to on a more
Yeah.
strategic
Yeah.
level,
Yeah.
how to do so my learning now is more strategic. When it comes to tools, I'm going to invest in my people, but there's still, like, I need to know the highlights so that I don't become disconnected,
Hmm.
like a lot of managers and
Right. Right.
called leaders do, from what is going on. But I figured out I don't have to be the expert on everything anymore.
Yep.
I need to know enough in order to be a good facilitator, and
Yeah.
and so that's what happens as you get older, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. It can, but I get it. It's that a what's the word I'm looking for? It's the not ability, but it's you will do it. You'll dig in and you'll do the work to stay
Yeah,
relevant on top of having these conversations with people
yeah,
that you work with,
yeah,
and that'll earn you respect.
yeah. I will.
All right, last one. Inspired by the success of others, instead of being competitive with their coworkers, they find inspiration in their success. People with a fixed mindset must make themselves appear better than others, emphasizing who performs worse than them in order to feel better. That's self-explanatory.
Yeah,
Those with a growth mindset want to learn from those who perform better.
yeah.
Ooh. This is interesting. I embarked on a mission in our gym in Warrior Fitness. Before it was Warrior Fitness, we had that CrossFit type of leaderboard,
Mm,
right, where everyone they would do a workout for time, they'd enter their score, how fast they did it, or how much they lifted or whatever, and everybody was like, I would say half of the people were very much into comparing themselves to each
yeah,
other. And I didn't do it overnight. Over the next year, I worked that out of um, part of the culture, and like, people don't even enter their scores anymore into the system. And it's such a better environment
yeah,
um, in terms of just watching people get better and get more fit in terms of the overall life of everyone. I think it's better than just having them um, complain about somebody not doing reps consistently or the same way they were doing it, or just everyone would leave and someone would stay behind and be like, they didn't finish all the stuff. And I'm like, I don't care. Like, it's on them, it's their fitness. Like, but they're like, but they beat me, but they didn't really beat me. And it's like, what do you care, man?
yeah,
But like that, like in a microcosm of like competitiveness, that's the same in business and in life, I think. But
yeah. Well, kind of what I was talking about with the collaboration. You can be
yeah,
competitive for the short-term fuel, collaborative for the long-term fuel. Um,
Right, right.
and your long-term fuel is those people like, you know, yeah, there's a little bit, like, I'm going to still look if I'm doing the same exercise as somebody else right next to me, then I'm going to look at them, and there's,
Yeah.
like, I'm gonna be driven, like, when I run with my son or my daughter,
I
like,
don't want to beat them up.
I
Like,
wanna beat
I
him.
beat you. I got back to the house first, you slow loser.
I raced a dude on a, bicycle today at one point for a full block, and, nobody I fucking know,
Hmm.
this one dude that, like, he looks over at me and he's not on his
He's
bicycle
not.
being competitive, he's, like,
Yeah.
going down the middle of the street,
Right.
and I start running, and he looks over, and, like, it was just one of those, like, he gave me one of those it's not a head nod, but what anyway, like,
Yeah. Whatever.
and then I started running, and then he smiled, and then I was like, "Let's go," and I'm
Yeah.
48,
Yeah.
but, like,
Yeah.
I kept up with him for most of the block, and we got and of
Yeah.
course, beat me at the
Well,
end
he
of the
didn't
block.
wake up this morning to beat a middle-aged guy on his bike running.
No, exactly, but we got to the end, and he was waiting there for his buddy, but he
Yeah.
looked at me and, and just I did a quick bump, and I was
Right.
like, "Thanks,
That's
man, I
funny.
appreciate it," and he got it too. Um, so it's but the competi but that's it. Like, it was a little bit of competition, but the
Mhm.
truth was, it's like, it was also collaboration. Like, we're competing with each other,
Yeah.
but, working and collaborating with each other. And like, it probably almost fucking killed me,
Yeah.
but, for both of us, it was like, it was a quick moment in time
Yeah.
that, like, I hope, I was a little bit inspired, he was a little bit inspired.
It's
Um,
cool.
you
And it's
know
unspoken.
no, yeah,
It's
this
cool.
is beautiful, and, you know, I would say I don't know how you feel about kids' sports, but my wife and I have had this discussion many times about, like, you know, their kids on the same teams
Yeah.
that our kids have been on, or their kids, that they're competing against, and and listen, and there's some people that are, even kids, like, they seem to be great human beings, and also there are some horrible human beings that are
Oh,
kids.
yeah.
And we know that the horrible human beings are caused by their parents, right? But, it's yeah, but, like, there's some people that have success that maybe you're not fans of,
Yeah.
um, and, but back to this growth mindset, like, you don't I don't think that you have to be happy about them. You don't have to be happy about them, being really good at what they do, and winning a prize, or,
Mhm.
or whatever it is, even if they're a total asshole. But it's okay to be inspired by the amount of success that they have.
Right.
I've told you before that, like, I hated Tom Brady early in his career. I don't know why, he's just another human, but
It's hard to hate him now.
it's hard to hate him now, but
Yeah.
also, like, there's a certain part of me that it finally clicked. I was like, you know, this dude goes and, in
Mhm.
the off season, he works with a trainer to make sure, that A, he's maintaining, but B, that he's getting better at being precise. Like,
I
there's some
know.
article that I read 2 years ago that he, in his quote unquote vacation, like, he goes to a beach, but he has this one dude that he works out with every single day to be so precise on
Mm.
his routes. Not on his routes that he's running, but on his throwing routes. Um, and that, he does that for, like, weeks at a time, just the same thing over and over.
Damn.
If you hate somebody like that, if you're not inspired by
Y
the effort and work that they put
You're
in.
not paying attention.
Well, and also fuck you,
Yeah,
because
I know.
you're wrong, okay?
Yes.
Like, you don't have to like them, but you
Right.
can be inspired by, like, there's a certain amount of work ethic that, whether it's Tom Brady, or,
Yeah.
a gymnast, or, somebody, that you work with, like an incredible developer that just keeps putting in the time and effort to become so much. There's a guy that, I designed a website for, a client last year, and you know, and it was okay, but
Mhm.
it was something that they were, you know, they were a startup business. They needed to have a website because they were on
Right.
Wix before that, and you know, but it was just like, here it looks decent. I did
Mhm.
a lot of research on, you know, color schemes and what they needed and everything. And then, you know, over the past couple of months, they've had somebody that's come in and retooled their messaging, but then she used a different developer or different designer. And at first I was pissed. I was like, dude, I have this contract. You know, like, what are you doing?
Right.
And but the designer came and like, this is what he does every single day. I don't do this every single day.
Right. It's a designer, man.
Right.
Yeah.
And like, when the website was done, I'm like, "Fuck, that's
Looks
awesome."
good.
You know,
Yeah.
like, you and I have seen enough websites in our day that, like, I
Yes.
looked at that and I'm like, "That is fucking," that makes
Yeah.
them look like, instead of a startup, it makes them look
Right.
like they've been around for a while,
Right.
whereas mine was like, "Eh," you
Yeah.
know, and even when I was asked to do it, I was like, "I'm not really a designer," you know,
Mm.
I'm never, like, I learned all of my stuff from, you know, I call myself a hacker in the sense that, you know, I hacked together a website because I had to learn it from when
Right.
our developers and designers needed QA work done. Um, anyway, so I looked at it and I was like, I'm really inspired by this particular person that made this
Yeah.
website. I'm like, and what I said to the owner of the company was, you know, like, it doesn't matter whether I designed it or not. I was like, the amount of effort that went into your messaging and the amount of effort that went
Mhm.
into making this new website, I said, you know, you are going to have, you know, a great tool to use for everything that you're doing, for getting more funding, getting more customers and everything. Like they've done such a great job that, you know, like, I don't care if I'm involved with it or not. It's, you know, like, that is going to be so much more helpful to them than what, you know, I originally did or what I could
Right.
do. So, you know,
Yeah. I mean,
be inspired by somebody who actually puts the time and effort into what they're doing,
yeah.
and, you know, then you won't be a sourpuss.
Get your head out of your own ass. I think it's what
Exactly,
you just described.
exactly. Anyway,
Well, I thought that was a great post.
yeah.
Oh, it's always fun to talk about stuff other people do.
It's true.
Pick it apart, whatever. But
Yeah,
yeah, that's growth mindset's been on my mind for a while. And it's something I'm always checking against myself. Like, am I exemplifying growth mindset or am I fixed?
yeah. No,
Um,
am I moving forward or am I stopped or even regressing?
yeah,
Yeah,
I think it's
yeah.
important.
Cool.
Well, thanks for going through that with me.
Yeah,
And man, have fun in England,
I will.
in London specifically.
London.
Yeah, don't race anymore,
Mm-mm.
guys on bicycles. It's probably a bad
Nope.
idea.
Yeah, probably a bad idea.
All right, man.